So in this screencast, I want to dig deeper into ECMAScript 6. And the first thing we need to look at is what's a good reference for ECMAScript 6. Now, I showed you the link to the draft the last time, but sometimes that can be a little hard to read. Mozilla, however, at developer.mozilla.org has a very nice reference, and so I'm going to go down here to Web Platform and click on JavaScript. And then over here we're going to have a list of the features for the current documentation for JavaScript that Mozilla has. Now, the thing is, right off the bat, you don't see what's ECMAScript 5 and what's ECMAScript 6. So you have to dig deeper. So what I'm going to do is, since we were looking at strings last time, I'm going to go ahead and look at strings some more. And over here you'll see all of the members that string supports. And there's 4 different notations, I guess you could say, for this. First of all, if it's all going to be over here on the left-hand side. If there's nothing on the left-hand side, it's pretty safe to use. Now, if you see this little beaker here, look at normalize, it's going to say that this is an experimental technology that's part of ECMAScript 6. This is something that you would have to use, say, a nightly build of Firefox or Tracuer in order to be able to use it. So that's part of ES6. On the other hand, if you see this little warning icon, like with quote, that means that this feature is not part of any standard. Never has been, it's currently not, it's not intended, and it's not proposed. So in other words, you probably shouldn't use this because even though it may work on one browser, it's probably not going to work on another. And then finally, this little thumbs down, like for italics, that says this is deprecated. It once was part of a standard, but it's not anymore, and so therefore you shouldn't use it even if it is supported by some browsers, because support will be removed in the future. So now what I want to do is just go basically round out the ES6 features of the string object. Just look at a couple of other things that it can do. So there's this method contains, and all it does is it basically looks at, does the string that is passed to contains, is it in the string on which contains is called? So in this case, does Apple contain app? And it does. And it doesn't have to start at the beginning. We could say, does it contain PL? We'll just go ahead and do that. The other one is repeat, and this one's pretty predictable as well. It's simply going to, you're going to pass a number to repeat, and it's going to print the text that it's called on that number of times. So we can pass in, so of course numbers can be positive, negative, or 0. Obviously we would expect ES6 to be printed 4 times here, 0 times here, and actually if you put a negative number in there, it will throw a range error. So I've got a flag here to use on this function so we can prevent it from crashing the program. So what I'm going to do is I've got a little shell script here that's going to compile everything, and then it'll run my main function, my main file that is, which has simply got the tracer runtime, and then pulls in the built files, and then runs the demos. So we'll run that real quick, and we can see that it did pretty much what we expected it to. That this is the result of does Apple contain the string PL. Here's ES6 4 times. Here's ES6 0 times. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, and this is the one that will test the negative, passing a negative number to contains, and you'll see that it will crash with a range error. Let's look at something interesting though real quick. So here are the built files. So let's look at contains. Notice that contains calls contains. So the contains ES6 will actually, this is the ES5 version, calls contains. And the same thing with repeat. It calls repeat. So basically, this text right here is the same as it is in the ES6 file. Why is this? Because if you try to put this into the console in Chrome, we're in 37 right now, it's not going to work. Well, notice that this is wrapped in this system.register, which is all provided by which is all part of the Tracuer runtime. So if we go over here to GitHub and look at the code for the runtime, if we look in runtime Polyfills, we're going to see this string file here. If we look through here, we're going to see, look here, we've got starts with and the corresponding ends with. We looked at starts with last time, and then, but here's contains, here's repeat. Yeah. It's all, in other words, these functions are provided for you by the Tracuer runtime. So you can't always get a good idea of what's happening in ES5 by looking at the generated file. But anyway, this code is really, really good learning. Also, if you look on the Mozilla Developer Network site, you'll also be able to, for some of them, that they have the polyfill code there as well. So this is a good resource for learning. And we'll look at some more stuff the next time.